Welcome, everyone. This is Greg Aden. And first of all, I want to give shout out to my sponsor, InterraWorks, located in Austin and in Nashville. That's where their headquarters are located. Integrated learning to transform potential to results. Yes, that's what they stand for, but what they really do is elevate the human experience. I know I've been involved with InterraWorks for years now, and they have incredible tools: Effective Edge, Best Year Yet, Essentials, Lori, Kathy, Annie, the team, just amazing human beings. So if you haven't checked them out yet, please do. For leadership, for communication, for productivity, simply one of the best. Coming up soon, a great episode with Sarah Thurber, and we're going to be talking about her new book that she's written with her loving spouse, Blair Miller, in a minute. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership. And today with me, I have a special guest who I met a few years ago out in Santa Barbara. We'll talk more about that later. But everyone, please welcome Sarah Thurber.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much, Greg, for the invitation.
Yeah, and let's talk about Santa Barbara. I believe that was Dr. Steve Ralph, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
My first time there, shout out to Monica Mallet, who I had on one of my leadership development days, and she said, you need to meet Steve Ralph, or Dr. Steve Ralph, right here in Denver. So we did. We had coffee, and he said, you need to be part of this Epic Society impact. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with Steve and how you decided you wanted to participate in that.
Sure, absolutely. I met Steve actually at a creativity conference called the Creative Problem Solving Institute, where he had made a big splash. He's a great teacher and thinker, and somebody who's really able to cross and bridge whole concepts. In that case, he was bridging the whole world of creativity and creative problem solving and creative thinking with business. He's a professor at Pepperdine and had integrated creative thinking into one of his business classes. And shortly after I met him at CPSI, the Creative Problem Solving Institute, he asked me to present at one of his classes and to give his students the assessment that we do on thinking profiles, like how people approach problems. So we have bonded early on over making the connection between creative thinking and leadership and business and team results. And so it was an easy ask when he said you should come to the Epic conference in Santa Barbara to say yes.
And you were there with another lady, Duarte Nelson?
Duarte Nielsen, yeah.
Is that how we say it? Nelson?
Yeah.
Beautiful person. And you all wrote a book together, several years ago?
2016. That was The Secret of the Highly Creative Thinker. And we went to graduate school together and pretty much just escorted each other through that whole program, challenging each other to think harder and write more. And we did all of those things. It was great. And in the end, I sort of came to that world as a writer, and she came as a teacher, and we ended up co-authoring a book, The Secret of the Highly Creative Thinker, and it was really a delight.
Well, I mean, if anyone's listening, the word creative has come up a couple times now, and I guess my curiosity is, what is the secret of a highly creative thinker? What's the end result of your book?
I've written a couple of books. Most of them really are about how to bring the research in applied creativity and applied creative problem solving into usable spaces like relationships, like teams, like leadership, like thinking. That sort of grounding in the applied science of creative thinking and creative problem solving has really informed all of my work. Because if you think about it, the book we just wrote, or the book that I just wrote with my colleague and husband of 30 years, Good Team, Bad Team, is really about collaborative problem solving and the power of tapping everybody's best thinking to produce better teams and better solutions and help teams achieve their goals faster. So our work, whatever it's packaged as, whether it's innovation or whether it's team building or whether it's collaboration, it is really about bringing that research about what we know helps people work better together and think better together and putting that into people's hands.
Yeah. So back to that question though, what in your opinion, your humble opinion, with all you've studied and all you've created, what is the secret of the highly creative thinker? What are some of them? I'm sure there's not just one, but what would you say to our audience is the secret?
So the essence of that book was how to make connections that others don't see.
Hmm.
Because if you think about it, what creativity is creating new value. And
Yep.
that comes from ideas, but it also comes from insights about what trends are, what's happening, what the problem is, and the ability to identify the right problem, the ability to make connection and see the idea that's going to solve it, and then to go and plan that idea to make that and develop that into something workable, and then to implement it.
Hmm.
So the book, The Secret of the Highly Creative Thinker, really focused on that idea creation, the idea generation. And the secret to that, according to the book, is the ability to make connections. Because a new idea is simply the connection of two old ideas in a
Hmm.
new way. And
Yeah.
that could be concepts, words, visual connections, all kinds of connections. But the ability to make connections, you can learn. And that is a very, very powerful thing to teach
Absolutely.
and to learn. And so many people think they are not creative, but when you frame it as, hey, creativity is not just one type of thinking, it's four different kinds of thinking, and people have measurably different thinking preferences, and you may have a thinking preference for part of that creative problem solving process that culturally we don't associate with creativity.
Yeah.
We only associate that ideation stage with creativity, but really all the stages and those stages combined are what create powerful outcomes that really change, that really move the dial.
Well, I heard connections, but I also heard connections, meaning two, three, four people working on something, connecting together as human beings and finding out the connection. So, not a play on words, but whoever's listening, they might have heard the same thing I did. And there's a lot of books around how to connect with others, relationships, leadership, etc. But yeah, that's one I'm going to have to add to my reading. But the book that Sarah had mentioned earlier that she's written with her partner Blair Miller is this one. It's Good Team, Bad Team. And I've got a ton of questions. First of all, it's good team, bad team. Lead your people to go after big challenges, not each other. Tell me about that particular phrase or the descriptor of this book, because I, as a leadership coach, an executive coach, a development a specialist, I get it. I do this for a living, but tell the audience what did you both mean by lead your people to go after big challenges, not each other?
Essentially, this book, Good Team, Bad Team, is written for team leaders who have big goals, really, want to get stuff done and end up spending more time dealing with people challenges than with the challenges that would help them move toward their goal. And that's incredibly frustrating and often unexpected. It's not what the doers and the, accomplishers think is going to happen when they get promoted into a leadership spot.
Yeah.
But what they may or may not realize is that those people challenges are often the result of a lack of understanding of how team dynamics really work. There are things we know about what makes good teams and what makes psychologically safe teams and what makes high performing teams. And that research is all in this book. But the other piece of research that is new that we've really brought to this book is the whole research on cognitive diversity, how people think differently, and how that can create friction and breakdown and misunderstanding and people problems
Mm.
where there's kind of mistrust or people aren't sure they want to work with another person because they're approaching the challenge so differently. And when you can surface that those differences could actually be the source of your greatest strength. And when you learn when you can equip your team with an awareness, self-awareness, team awareness, and process awareness, it's really a game changer. You can
Yeah.
end up switching that ratio, spending more time on the challenges that will move you toward your goal and less time on the people challenges that just are a sinkhole of energy and disappointment often.
Yeah. And it's when you pick at people's differences, things you don't understand, things you don't like, things you don't admire. In fact, now Susie and Greg are talking about Blair and this person, and we're not even focusing on much less the solution, but we are eliminating our conversation around problem solving because we're focusing on people. Interesting. So I'd love for you just to take us through this first. The people problem starts with you. You're really addressing the issue. The issue in the room is, who are you being as a leader? Who are you being as a parent? Who are you being as a spouse? I love it because a lot of people don't want to take ownership of, hey, this is my team. And I have a huge responsibility, or it's an honor and a privilege to be a leader of this team. But tell me more about what you all were thinking about when you titled that first chapter, "The Problem Starts with You."
I think, I resonate with what you just said, that the leader of any group, is only a leader if people follow them. And in order for people to want to follow you, you need to have something valuable. You need to be the one coming up with the right way and the right solution and the thing that's going to make the group stronger, make them stronger, bring bring health and wellness and success to that group. And you have to earn that role. I mean, you can have it as a title, but to really earn the leadership role,
Mhm.
you have the opportunity to have a larger vision than yourself, to have something that is a space where everybody can perform at their best. And when you can set the challenge, when you can set the right goal or challenge and give the right people you know that challenge to go work on, and give them a climate of safety and security, you've got all the key ingredients to have absolutely committed people.
Yeah.
People want to work on a big challenge. They want to work together, and they want the autonomy to figure it out on their own. You know, when you can create that kind of environment for your team, they will follow you anywhere.
Yeah.
And when you start with a deep understanding of how you're approaching a challenge, and have the humility to realize you don't approach it the same way other people do. And sometimes
Hmm.
that's great, and sometimes that's not so great. It's a powerful insight.
Well, and you also introduced another one of my favorite words, the humility to know that not everyone will approach it like you do. And leadership is not telling. It's demonstrating and allowing. And you use the words like create the proper environment so we can all be successful. Teams are sports. Teams are in family. They're in organizations, clearly. And yes, we want to win, but I believe a lot of it has to go with how we collaborate, how we communicate, how we ask questions. And I'm a big believer, Sarah, that curiosity is a huge tool for a great leader these days. To ask questions, not questions you know the answers to. And I've said this on a few of my shows, but you're so curious that you are willing to humble yourself to ask the other team members, here's our challenge, here's our problem. What do you believe we should do? Now, most people are going to look at that person and say, if they trust them, and again, you talk about trust in your book, we'll get to that in a second too. If they trust you, they'll actually share information with you. But if they think they're just being tested, that's when people sit on their hands and act like they don't have the information. But another part of your book that I loved was the hands-on, go from hands-on to hands-in. Now, my take was when I read it was that, you want people to be more involved, not just be around. So tell me again what you and Blair were thinking when you wrote this.
Sure. I love that phrase. I'm glad you picked it out. What we know from our research on cognitive diversity, we've run this assessment, the foresight thinking profile, for 20 some years and collected more than 6 million data points on how people solve problems. And what we know is that, a problem requires four different types of thinking to solve it. You got to clarify what is the problem, you've got to ideate on ideas, you've got to develop solutions, and you've got to implement. Among leaders, almost 60, more than 60% of leaders have a preference to implement. That means they're coming in as people who like to take charge, they like to get results, they like to focus on what's happening and how to get it done and take the straightest line through. But others don't work that way. And when you lead just with the end in mind, you tend to make mistakes that you're making in the interest of efficiency, that ramrod your idea or your approach through and don't invite input from others. Other people with other thinking profiles tend to be a little quieter, a little more withdrawn, a little more circumspect before they just bark out their opinions or their ideas. So creating a space where you intentionally set the expectation, hey, this is a problem solving space, and I would like to understand this problem. And the secret to that, there is a secret to that. The secret to that is to frame the problem you want input on as a question.
Mhm.
Sort of, we need sales. We've got a sales problem. We're short, we need more leads. That's a different entry point into the problem solving conversation than gathering people whose opinion you are genuinely interested in hearing and saying, how might we get more leads? And mean it.
Yeah.
Be really interested in what you're asking. The switch from stating a problem and being the definitive person who's defining the problem, which is a power position, to asking
Yeah.
about the problem and setting it as a question is a humbling thing to do, but an incredibly empowering thing to do for your team.
Empowering, powerful. And when you're telling and you already have the answer and you're informing, you're a boss, you're a supervisor, at best a manager, but please don't behave that way and then call yourself a leader. And by the way, you said earlier, in spite of your title, I'm not a big fan of titles because they aren't going to be how you're remembered. You're going to be remembered how you treated people, how you loved others, how you recognized people. And I'll go to my grave saying that as you walk through a graveyard, you won't see vice president of or chief. And you know this. You're a humble human being just from day one. I can't imagine. Further in your book, you heavily cover trust, and I'm a big proponent of how does one develop trust. So, as a leader who's reading this book and they want a good team, how is trust important to you relative to creating a good team?
Well, trust is important from a sort of a heart space. It's important because people will bring forth their best thinking. But from just a business performance space, Google did an analysis way back in 2014, I think, of who were their high performing teams and what did those teams have in common. And they were able to identify a number of different characteristics, but trust was top on that list. But trust isn't just, I trust you not to steal the stapler. Trust is, I trust you that when I've got a big idea or see something that I think may not be working or somebody that may need help and it's not the popular opinion and it's not the mob mentality, that I can surface that and know that other people will engage in that and lift it up and look at it with me rather than shoot me down for being the odd man out. I guess in terms of creative thinking and swinging it back there, trust is the ability to engage in the creative problem solving process together. And
Well,
that's hard to do because it's a messy process. It's not linear, but the output is new value and the output is great. So, from the, Google research, if high performing teams have trust in common, you want that. And
Mhm,
then the question is, how do you get that?
mhm.
And partly you get it from being self aware that the way you're going to engage with your team and in a challenge may be a reflexive thing to do and maybe something you could invite feedback about or can adjust so that it works better for the team so that you're getting everyone's best thinking rather than imposing your best thinking and assuming everybody's coming along with you.
Well, you talk about it on page 97, and something that I was just reading the other day is about you think of trust in layers. Safety, we all want to be safe physically, psychologically. And then you talk about clarity and transparency. And then you talk about belonging, and then you talk about respect. And I don't know that I've read anything that has ever kind of gone through the layers of trust in such a simple way, frankly. So again, congrats on making this. It's an interesting read. It's a great read. Back to the title of the book. How did you decide to go with good team, bad team?
The reason we called it good team, bad team is if you had a good life and a good marriage and good friends and a good family and a good job, like you'd have a great life.
Yeah,
You think
well
of the
said.
times you've been on a good team. It's really life-giving. It's
Yeah,
it's what you need to sustain. It's not the ultimate expression, but no great team can be great without living at good.
yeah.
Good is your base camp. From there, you can ascend to great much more easily than if you're starting at nothing.
I like the distinction. I coach in distinction. Steve Chandler helped me get this through my head a long time ago. Expectations versus agreements, for instance. Expectations are good, they're okay, but agreements are things that we can count on. Expectations, I expect that of you, you did it, okay, no, or you disappointed me, you didn't meet my expectations, and now I'm irritated. But if we just go that to a distinction of agreement, you and I agreed to be here on a certain time. You showed up on time, I showed up on time. It was an agreement we made without even knowing it. But what I coach is literally ask for the agreement. However way you wish, will you or will you not? And by the way, I will not is also a commitment, is an agreement. But as a leader, tell us one thing that you would want a new leader. And I don't mean a 20 something. I mean someone and has been experienced, he or she or they have been in the workforce for a while, and all of a sudden now they've been asked to lead a team. What part of this book would you ask them to dive into first, and why?
I love that question. The research suggests that people who are asked to lead are often individual high performers. They're people who do their work well.
Yeah.
And when you do your work well, you're a solo performer and you have a lot of control over the work generally. When suddenly you're asked to lead, gosh, that sounds like a promotion. That sounds like a great thing. Good for you. Woohoo.
Yeah.
But what's happening is the work you're asked to do is different entirely. You no longer have control over the work because what you're trying to do is create a space where other people can be individual and collective performers. And that's just a different job. There are things to know about it. There are a couple of basic things to understand about it. There are bumps in the road that you will hit that are just part of the normal cycle of a team.
Yeah.
But there are other bumps in the road you can really avoid if you're aware. So that's why we wrote the book, really, because I think, up until COVID, people were working together in spaces where young people could see older people or people who'd been there longer and could model their leadership or their team interactions based on what they were seeing and based on the information that they were just taking in without even knowing it. And suddenly a lot of that's gone. We have remote work, we have hybrid work. Hey, I'm a fan. We have that at our business too. And you lose a lot of the information about how to work well with other people. And so part of the impetus of putting this book together was to actually just take the research of what we know works and put it in a really easy, really readable, really friendly format so that people who want to be good leaders have a place to get it.
Yeah, it's a playbook. And as a top producer, when I was in the hospitality company, not top producers don't always make good leaders. Great athletes, wide receivers, shooters, goal scorers, etc. By the way, I recognize that you volunteer as a field hockey coach. This is absolutely segue, but tell me more about your interest in helping girls field hockey. I think that's beautiful.
Well, it is beautiful. When I was in high school, I played field hockey and I played in college. And the experience of being on a team was one of the most
Mm,
important, formative experiences I had as a young woman. And it's one of the experiences that has been most influential in me being a leader.
yeah,
It was really the ability to create a space and to hold a space for young women who are in a very sensitive time of life. They're adolescents,
absolutely.
they're in a huge school, they know nobody, to create a place and a
Yeah,
team that they belong to and have the experience of not only working with each other, but working at their most fierce to really push themselves. And I think that's what's so exciting about being part of a team. You're part of something bigger. You work
yeah,
harder than you would if you were just doing it alone. I know when I do ab exercises, I'm good after about like 15. But if I'm in a class, I will do all 50, and teams
yeah.
are like that. They can bring you to a higher level. And team leaders who know how to do that offer a huge gift to the people that they lead.
Well, I can't imagine as a young woman having an opportunity to have you in my life, your experiences, your enthusiasm you bring to just being a good human. And trust me, when you said being part of a team was one of the more important things to you and the things that lit you up when you started talking about it. And as a person who's been on a lot of teams, good teams and bad teams, I love the competition. I love the idea of, hey, this is my position. I'm going to play it the best I possibly can, and hope that others will. But as a young person, being able to have a coach like you in their life, someone that has not only written books but as a just a good human being, that additional role model beyond mom and dad or whoever else is in your life is significant. And sometimes those are the people that get mentioned as to some of the reasons why they behave the way they behave in a positive way. I always say on my show that there's a significant connection between leadership and parenting. And as a 62-year-old of a son of who's soon to be 14, I say that with all conviction. And if you just look at the team that you have as a family, and you're not the greatest team, you're not the greatest family, but will you be a good family? Will you be a good parent? I believe just being a good parent is really important right now.
Yeah.
So God bless you. God bless Blair for writing this. And is there anything else you'd like to say about the book? Clearly, where we can get it, I'm assuming Amazon and other places.
Amazon's easy to get it. It's it
Yep.
it actually is a pretty good book group book for a small team. You can do the assessment and all the tools that we have, but just to go as a team to work through this and to understand collectively how people can bring their best selves, best thinking, best listening,
Mm,
best curiosity, as you point out.
sure.
Like, it is an incredible pleasure to work on a good team.
Well, at the end of the day, Sarah, what have we left behind? And if people can say he added value, they added value, she added value to the relationship, the team, the conversation. I mean, that's a huge thing to live for. And if you leave a little value with everyone that you come in contact with, whether you're creative or collaborative or not, how can you add value? And by way of just listening and then responding later or sending a follow-up note might be of value. But if you're adding value to get recognized, that's not authentic. And that's something I'd ask my listeners to stay away from. But You are adding value in this world, and I just want you to know it. I really appreciate it. I was listening to a podcast between Simon Sinek and Mariah Shiver. Fantastic conversation, by the way. And the question that she asks in her book is, who are you? And the book is titled, I Am Maria. And that's a good question. And, I have an I am statement that I wrote a long time ago. And I just remembered listening to this podcast. I haven't listened to it in a while. I'm going to go back and listen to who I say I am. And part of it is a father, part of it is a husband, part of it is a coach. But what do I really stand for? And I'd just like for you to play with that, you and Blair maybe, and your friends. And when someone says, what do you do? Well, let me tell you who I am. Because what we do really isn't as important as who we're being.
I'm 2 thumbs up on that idea. And because I think it's the old saying, people don't remember what you did, they remember how you made them feel. And
Amen.
that is as true on a team as it is at a cocktail party.
Yeah.
And there are things to know about how to deliberately interact with people and deliberately lead people that will make that experience better for them and will make the experience. I mean, it's so interesting. You say, don't do it for your own gain. But the irony is if you do it well, you gain, they
Yes.
gain, the team
Yeah.
gains. I
Yes.
mean, it's a win-win-win that allows you to stay in that place of authenticity. That is a very hard place to hold on to, which is why we called it good team, bad team, not perfect team, and you lose.
Greatest team,
You
right?
know, everyone's just doing the best they can at any given point. But aspirationally, like I love that idea of who you're being.
Yeah. Sarah Thurber, thank you for being my guest. Appreciate again the book. For those of you that are watching it instead of just listening to it, it's called Good Team, Bad Team. It's a beautiful read. And please let Sarah know or Blair know what you thought of the book after you order it. I'm sure you'd appreciate some comments.
I would love that.
Yes. So again, thank you for being my guest. And to the listeners, again, what I took out of this is be creative, be collaborative, be honest, be open. And as a leader of a team, ask yourself, are you building trust with everything you do and everything you say, or at least most of what you're doing and what you're saying? And how do you make sure that the people on your team are safe? How are you asking questions that you don't know the answers to, so you'll really get information that can help you be a good leader and have a good team and stay away from being a bad team as long as you can. Thank you, Sarah, for being my guest. And to everyone listening, God bless, be kind and be considerate. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. It was a pleasure.
Wow. What an incredible conversation. And Sarah, if you can't tell, not only intelligent, charming, loving, easy to speak with, and has a lot of great things to share relative to good team, bad team, i.e. the cover of the book or the title of the book, I should say. And she talked a lot about having a desire to truly make connections. And so I ask you, where are you making connections? And are you really doing it based on your need or the needs of the relationship? I love the distinction, if you will, between hands-on versus hands-in relative to leader. And I ask you, are you hands-in? Are you hands-on? High-performing teams are always built on trust. So again, the question to you is your team built on trust? The book we mentioned, Good Team, Bad Team, it's a great read. I've already used it with one of my main clients in a facilitation. And then think about when you've been on a team. What are those memories? You heard Sarah talk about her childhood days of being in field hockey. Now she's retiring after several years of coaching. But what are some of the memories that you have of being on a team, and what did it feel like? And what do you want to create for your team? I know a guy. He's based in Denver. I'd strongly recommend him. We're talking about me, but I'd love to coach your team. I'd love to facilitate a team meeting. I'd love to do some executive coaching for you. So if you have that in your heart, you want to grow and get better, please look me up, adenleadership.com. Until then, be kind and God bless.